It's nice to start with a fanfare. Thank you for that. Good evening. Welcome everybody to February's meeting of Planning Committee B. Before we start the meeting, I have a few housekeeping announcements to make. First of all, we aren't expecting any fire alarms today. So if you do hear a fire alarm, it does mean that we do need to leave the building. So there will be members of staff to direct you to where you need to leave by, but basically leave by hopefully the entrance you came in by, and then the mustering place is about 100 metres down the road in that way at St John's Churchyard, but there will be people be able to direct you there. The unlikely event there's anything to worry about. Hopefully you also found where the toilets are if you need them. So basically leave this room, go down that corridor, turn right, you'll find the toilets down the end there. There are also some refreshment machines in the waiting area outside this room as well if you need to eat or drink. Finally, please do keep your mobile phones turned off or at least silent in the meetings if you can't live without hearing or getting any notifications from them. This meeting is being live streamed as well. So if you are addressing the committee in any capacity during the details, please do not give us any personal details about yourself that you wouldn't be in the public domain, because it's a live stream, anybody can see that. So don't say anything about your personal circumstances known widely. Members of the public are also welcome to film, audio record, photograph or tweet about the public proceedings of the meeting. If you do take any pictures, please do keep your cameras pointed towards this end of the room so you're not taking pictures of any other member of the audience. And it's also important if you are doing anything like that, please do not disrupt the proceedings of the meeting as well. During the meeting, members of the committee won't have any access to the internet or send or receive emails, text messages or tweets concerning the business committee other than what they've got in front of them in terms of public domain. I'd like to remind all speakers that when you are speaking, please do use the microphones that we've got here, because that's the only way we can capture your voice live stream. And also, if you're near a microphone, please don't put the mobile device anywhere near it, because it does tend to interfere better with these. But don't risk it, I think. But first item of business is apologies for absence. I've had apologies from Councillor Harper and from Councillor. Got one member who's running slightly late, hopefully. Councillor Hartley, if he's able to make it later. We have the confirmation of voting members. So first of all, if members could raise their hand just to indicate that they have a vote. Thank you. And I'm going to ask us all to introduce myself. So first of all, I'm Councillor Richard Livingstone. I'm a councillor for Old Kent Road Ward, and I'm chair of this committee. And I'm going to go to Councillor Soames. Introduce yourself.
Good evening, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. My name is. Hello, I'm Councillor Cuthbertson from Rodney Road and Vice Chair.
Good evening, it's Councillor Michael Shitu from Old Kent Road Ward.
And I'm going to ask officers to introduce themselves as well, so we can see who else is here.
I'm Colin Wilson. I'm the Assistant Director for Strategic Development.
Michael Feeney, Legal Advisor.
Greg Weaver, the Constitutional Clerk.
Gemma Rusher, I'm Team Leader in Strategics.
Richard Ayres from the Environmental Protection Team.
Dipesh Patel, Head of Strategic Applications. Matt Harris, Transport Team Leader.
Richard Craig from the Design and Conservation Team.
Thank you. Notification of any other business which the Chair deems urgent. So we have had an addendum report, a development management report, and the members pack of the slides that you're going to see circulated to us as well. And so just so that you're aware of those items. Disclosure of interest and dispensation. Does any member of the committee wish to disclose any item? Councillor Whittam.
Corner is in my ward, but thank you.
Thank you very much. That takes us to the minutes of the meeting that was held on the 10th of December. So to see if committee members are happy to approve those minutes from the 10th of December. Thank you. That brings us on to the main item. Just so that you're aware, I think I've told most people, but we are going to reverse the two items that we have in front of us, because I know that we have a member of the public here for the second item on Rodney Road, and we don't for the first item with the site of the range at the shopping centre. So we'll be reversing those two items, just so you're aware of that. The next item of business concerns the determination of planning applications. I'd like to remind everyone of the committee guidance on how we conduct business. First of all, the officers will present the report, outline their recommendations, and answer any questions that are raised by committee. Secondly, if present and wishing to speak, the following may then address the committee for no more than 3 minutes each. First of all, a spokesperson representing any objectors to the application. I'm not sure this is particularly relevant this evening, but I'll say it anyway. If there's more than one person here, you need to either identify a single spokesperson or decide if you're speaking how to share that time between you. You only have 3 minutes as an overall time slot. Secondly, the applicant or their agent. Thirdly, a spokesperson representing any supporters of the application live within 100 metres of the development site. And finally, a ward councillor representing the area affected by the proposal. So, ward members speaking and those nominated to speak on behalf of objectors, supporters and the applicants should sit as far forward in this meeting as possible. That's particularly important for the applicants because we may have further questions at a later stage, and so it's helpful for you to be near the front rather than having to climb over lots of people to get to talk. Each speaker should restrict their comments to planning aspects of the proposal and should avoid repeating information which is already in the report. It's important to note that this meeting is not a hearing where the participants present evidence that can then be cross-examined by other participants. At the end of each representation, the committee may ask questions of the presenter. Speakers should lead the committee to subjects on which they welcome further questioning. I always say this is particularly helpful if you think that the 3 minutes isn't going to be enough to get your points across. If you want to highlight particular points and you would like us to ask you further questions on that, there's the opportunity to do that. After receiving all the submissions, the committee will debate the application and consider the recommendation. However, this is a council committee meeting, which, although it's open to the public, there shouldn't be any interruptions from the audience. Finally, I'd like everyone present to know that although this planning committee comprises members from different political parties, although actually not this evening, but it usually does, we're not politically whipped. Each member makes their decision on the item based on the evidence that's placed before them, what's in the report and the planning policies of this council. How we approach these applications set out in the Development Manager Report, item 6. And if members are happy to note that report, we will move forward to considering the planning application. Is that? Thank you, committee. That brings us to item 6.2, which is 98-104 Rodney Road, SC17, and that's set out in pages 59 to 145 of the main agenda pack, and also pages 2 and 4 of the addendum report.
Thank you, Chair. So this application is an application to amend an approved scheme for a hotel on Rodney Road. The principal changes are the change of 126 ensuite rooms to introduce 196 single pods and maintaining 36 ensuite rooms. There are also some changes to the floor layouts, which are station. So the site is very close walking distance to the Elephant Castle. It's in the Elephant Castle opportunity area. It's in the town centre, and as the slide said, there is 12. So existing on site, there are 4 commercial units, only 2 of which are currently in operation. That's the shop and the takeaway. The shop, the mini mart on site will still be retained, so that's not changed, although reduced in area. So this is the approved scheme. It's a 9-storey building with a brick facade, 126 bedroom hotel with retail and community floor space. First floor, the intended occupants of that is the Arts Network, who are intending to occupy the scheme. So, as I mentioned, the proposed changes, the main change is the change to the type of accommodation side. So, the operator has changed since members went to planning permission. The 126 the suite rooms, had 6 ensuite rooms, 196 single pods, which would have shared bathrooms. The pod hotel, the concept originated in Japan. The operator has experience of operating similar hotels in Edinburgh and other capital cities. It would also provide a more affordable type of accommodation, but also maintaining the sort of traditional hotel. So on the slide there, we can see the scheme that was consented in 2020 and now proposed scheme. This is a typical floor plan. So on the right at the bottom, you can see that the standard ensuite rooms would be maintained. And above that in pink are the pods. And just to remind you, the pods, this is from the operators, one of their existing hotels. So that would be an example of this. In terms of the ground floor layout, there have been some changes proposed. One of the main changes, well, 2 of them. So one is that a basement level is now not being proposed. So there were 2 basements before. That would save over 220 tons of carbon by not digging that basement. As a result of that, some of the cycle storage then goes to the ground floor, as shown on the image right. As I mentioned before, the retail space would be maintained on the site. It is slightly smaller. And the cafe would also reduce in size. That's partly to accommodate some changes to the core and the firefighting arrangements and the lifts, but also to provide the charity or the community space with their own entrance. As you can see on the image on the left, the entrance was shared with the hotel. This was done. The change was made following further discussions with the charity, with the Arts Network, to provide them a bit more operational control over the space. On the first floor, there would be the introduction of some pod beds, top right, so the slide on the right. The rest of the space would be community floor space. This particular floor and the pods would be for women. The applicants also confirmed that to maintain women's safety, some of the other floors would also have the pod bedrooms only accessible by women. The other major change to the layout is on the top floor, on the 8th floor, where standard bedroom suites are no longer proposed, but a communal space is proposed, so with the gym and an area for guests to sit down, socialise, work as well. As part of the amendments, there's been some proposed changes to the materiality, so the introduction of enamelled ceramic. My colleague Richard Craig is here to answer any questions on the design changes. And as I mentioned before, the second basement level would not be built. General changes to the core for fire safety, and some other changes, including a slight increase in height of 30 centimetres. So this slide shows the change in the height, which is very minor. Plants being relocated on the top floor, with some changes to the ground floor entrance to enable that more functional entrance for the charity, but also the two-storey base will also be reduced slightly by 20 centimetres. The applicant conducted a public consultation in August and also delivered leaflets for just over 1,200 addresses. Council, for part of the planning notification, put up a site notice, foresight notice, a press notice, and wrote to over 804 neighbours. We had 54 comments, 25 in support, 1 neutral, 28 in objection. We have subsequently some more comments since the report was published. They're in the addendum. So 5 late representations were received, 3 comments in support, talking about the economic benefits that this development would provide. 1 comment was marked as neutral, but actually did talk about some of the benefits and the need for a supermarket. And the objection mentioned the impact that this change could have in terms of disturbance from for nearby residents. Both society similarly mentioned noise and disturbance and insufficient benefit for local residents and impact on transport. In terms of the changes, this slide just shows those changes there in a tabulated format. So there would be a slight reduction in the cafe of just under 70 square metres. The retail floor space would reduce and the community floor space would reduce as well, and a slight increase in the hotel floor space. The number of jobs expected to be generated through this would remain the same. In terms of accessibility, the applicant has maintained a good number of wheelchair accessible bedrooms as part of this application. They introduced 12 accessible pods, which are shown on the right. They would have side entry for people who do not have full mobility. And again, during the course of the application, the applicant has committed to Section 106 obligation, where wheelchair users would receive a free upgrade to the standard guest rooms. In terms of impact on neighbouring amenity, as I mentioned, the heights would increase by 50 centimetres, so we don't think there'll be any additional impact on daylight sunlight and overshadowing the building will remain the same. Noise disturbance is a possibility. There's a slide later to talk about that, but the predicted increase in comings and goings would be during the peak and morning daytime. The hotel operators mentioned that most of the activity or most of the check-ins occur before 8 p.m. So we don't think it's going to give rise to significant noise disturbance. It's in the central activity zone and in town centre, so we think this type of, or this intensification use is acceptable. And in terms of 106, the previous scheme included regrading of from Orb Street to Nursery Road Park. Following further conversation with colleagues in our parks team, that would then go away and be replaced by repaving and some seating on Nursery Road Park, in part to deal with additional activity generated through the intensification. In terms of highways and impact on transport, as you can see, the table there shows that in the morning peak, there are expected to be fewer movements as a result of this change, but in the PM peak, which is 5 to 6, there'll be approximately 77 more movements an hour. So in conclusion, the scheme would intensify the use of the site and more than double the number of occupants. The quality of the architecture would be similar. The proposed pod rooms would provide greater variety and more affordable space, and the equality implications for people with reduced mobility have been addressed, as I mentioned. It'd still deliver the cafe, community floor and retail floor space, and we don't think there'd be any additional significant harm on neighbour amenity. Another matter in the addendum is the carbon calculation, which has now been provided. So in terms of the change to carbon, this scheme would perform better with a 1.2% greater reduction compared to the 2021 cartel requirement. We recommend the application for approval.
Thank you, Dipesh. Any questions from members of the committee? Councillor City.
Just kind of drilling in more into kind of the expected increase in almost like a footfall in terms of when people come in and out. We've been given PM as 5 to 6 PM. Have we done any modelling on kind of impact of the increase by the sheer number of increase of the people in there during the latter hours of the evening rather than just?
So the trip generation goes up to 7 PM. The peak hour is the 5 to 6. We have spoken with TfL about existing public transport services and the cycle hire docking stations outside. They have no concerns to raise about capacity in terms of the additional trips. Many of those people will walk Elephant and Castle and perhaps from other areas if they're visiting part of the borough. And they would also probably use e-scooters and as well. So we try to account for that in terms of the parking at the front by providing a small area. There's also a bay on Balfour Street, across the road, Balfour Road. Balfour Street, it's already there, already existing, that they can also use. Like, there will be an increase in movement as a result of this.
Do you have any idea of how much, say, at 9 PM?
We haven't got that data. It's not been provided to us, but the applicant has said that most of the check-ins occur before 8 o'clock. I think it's 83% of them occur before 8 o'clock. They are here. They're operating other hotels in capital cities, so I think they've got some more information about when people are checking in, checking out, and that type of use.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, just to follow up. So it's not just about checking in as well, but it's about the fact that if you have almost triple the numbers of people who are going to be in an establishment coming in and going, or once they check in, don't you anticipate that would be an issue as well?
Yes, so there's a possibility that could affect neighbours and cause some disturbance. So there will be a hotel management plan as secured as part of what there is a hotel management plan secured as part of 1.6. So that would need to take into account the changes and include, for example, things: how do residents complain if they're disturbed? What measures will the hotel then? How will they investigate, and what measures will they take to deal with those issues that arise, if they arise?
Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to, before turn to other members of the committee, I wanted to sort of drill down a little bit more on the sort of trip generation out of this, because we seem to have, we've gone from basically we've quadrupled the number of beds, haven't we, from the consented scheme to this scheme, in effect. And we're talking about double the trip generations of that PM peak, which seems to be the sort of one. So just to understand quite how we've come up with those figures, because why is it not 4 times as many rather than 2 times as many? Just to understand that pattern a little bit more.
Okay, so I'll just start, and maybe Dipesh can continue. The permitted hotel use, the daily trips between 7 AM 7 PM were agreed at 596. The latest version of this scheme that we're now discussing today is 997 two-way movements. That's all two-way movement.
So yes, that's. But given you've potentially got 4 times as many people staying in a hotel, why is that generating twice as many trips?
We have to consider as well that the conventional hotel rooms had double beds that could have 2 people as occupancy, and that's what the original trip then was calculated on. So there is obviously an uplift in bed spaces. The trip gen does not as much as that, basically.
I think, Chair, for the bed spaces, so the approved hotel would have provided for 252 bed spaces, and what's been proposed now is 541.
Thank you. And the other question, just following up again from Councillor Stu's point about trip generation other than sort of arrival and departure. Do we have any information from the sort of similar hotels that we've got in Edinburgh and Dublin that's in terms of people, those sort of movements of people that are staying there? Are they coming in and out more often than people that would have a standard hotel booking? The basis that I'm not quite sure what you sort of understand a little bit more about the clientele, but I was looking at this and thinking, where would you ever use that? You might use that if you were going out for an evening, you wanted somewhere to come in, dump your bags, go out again for the night, and then come back and crash there because it was a cheap option. That might be more movement, therefore, than if you were coming and staying overnight. So this might have more movements associated with it. So, I mean, obviously that depends on the data we've got from their usage elsewhere, just to understand that.
Yeah, so it may be that the applicant can advise you on the Edinburgh and Dublin hotels. They did base their updated trip gen on the safe stay on Walworth Road. That's already there, so that's already operating. And the survey function that's similar.
Helpful, thank you. Councillor Whittam.
Okay. Just going on from that, you've got all these extra people, and yet the communal spaces are not any bigger. So, it's not going to be pleasant to be looking for somewhere to sit. If you can't sit in your pub, if there's nowhere to sit, then you'll be wandering the street, nowhere to go.
Yes, Councillor Whittam. So the pods don't contain space for people to sit, and it's a sleeping space. So I think that's why they've introduced onto the top floor the communal lounge that you can see there. So the idea is for that to be that place for for the residents to sit and socialise.
And where do they all get their breakfast?
It's not provided on site. That might be a question for the applicant.
Councillor Situ, you had a further question.
Yes, just following on from Councillor Whittam's question, is the reduction in community space and other amenities is as a result of the reduction in basement level? Is that rather than the kind of bedroom space itself? I've looked at the space kind of difference itself. I just wanted to understand whether the significant difference is the reduction of reducing from 2 basements to 1 basement.
I think that's partly it. So the slide here shows the cycle storage on the right. That's been moved up to the ground floor as a result of not having that additional basement. And I think also some reconfiguring of the ground floor has also occurred because of the fire safety requirements for the core.
Just a slightly different question in relation to the objections we've received and also kind of the supporters itself. It'll be very useful to hear how you thought to balance. I can see that there are almost equal numbers on both sides, but it'd be very useful to hear from officers' perspective how you've tried to manage those competing feedback from different sections.
Yeah, so one of the common themes in the objection was just the intensification and the type of use of budget hotel. So in terms of that, I think having it's in a town centre, so it's a place where activity does happen, where different types of accommodation are under demand, and that's why I think the operator has gone for this type of use. In terms of the potential disturbance in that activity, as Matt mentioned, we did look at the trip generation and the increase in footfall, and came to the view that yes, there would be an increase, but not so significant to cause a significant disturbance to neighbours. And also we've got the assurance of the hotel management plan, which means that any disturbance will need to be investigated and dealt with.
Got one last question. It was good to hear from your presentation about the women's safety aspects of this, given the greater level of shared space and the fact that there'd be shared bathroom and toilet facilities. So having women only floor seems a sensible move. Is that something that would be conditioned?
We would secure that in the 106.
Any further questions? Councillor Whittam.
For securing other things as well, what is the maximum length of stay in one of these?
I think the maximum length that someone can stay is never on 3 months, but I think in reality, people wouldn't use it for that amount of time. The applicant will probably talk about what the usual stay is, but it's unsuited for long-term stay, certainly.
So can we condition this?
I think you members certainly could, and you could probably put something into the 106 if the applicant were to be in agreement.
Not seeing any further questions from committee, so we'll move on to representations. So first of all, do we have any objectors present? Mr. Bedell, would you like to come forward? Thank you. I know you've been to planning committee before, Mr. Bedell, so I know you've been to planning committee before, but I'll remind you of the arrangement. So we're going to give you 3 minutes to speak. If you could first of all say who you are and just tell us what street you live on. Don't give your full address. All right, but anyway, but as long as you just say which where you live, that'd be helpful. And then once you've done that, I'll give you 3 minutes to address the committee. Sorry, yes, so if you press the button at the bottom.
Oh, got it. When it comes on red, yeah, we got it. Don't worry. Not that I'm much in technology, but my name is Mr. Bedell, and I live on Brandon Street, New Vault House, which is a stone's throw away from this development through the park. Whether it's within your 100 meters or not, I don't know, but that's where I am.
Sorry, just to clarify, yeah, the 100 meters is for people, is a restriction we have for people that are supporting an application. If you're objecting, it doesn't matter how far away you are.
Okay,
so that's fine. So
thank you for clearing that up. Anyway.
Yeah, that's fine.
As I say, you did rule me that I couldn't speak the last time, but I'm here to object to this planning application as such, and I did this on the last application. I think it was either last year. I can only remember one councillor actually sitting there who was actually at that meeting. I'm not objecting to what's happened as well. I can't go back on old ground or anything. What I'm objecting to is basically security around the area, around not only the people who live in the area, but the people who are going to be the clients of this hotel. And as far as I'm concerned, I say I've lived in the area all my life. It can be a bit unsavoury from time to time, and I use that in a mild sense. And it does concern me. I know you're going to come back that we've made this wonderful development, and we've heard the town centre and all that coming forward. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm here to object to the numbers of people that are actually going to use that as clientele as such. Because these people, the developer, in my opinion, has become a bit greedy. They've gone, they want to make a little bit more money, all right, they're entrepreneurs or whatever the case may be. Everybody's entitled to make some money. But we thought it may well be a bit up market, but now it's going down market. We've had these type of places before. They might call them pods now. But in the past, we used to have a place called the London Park Hotel at the Elephant. That was called Roughton House before that, where dossers used to just go and put their head down and that. And I hope this isn't going to be that. We've heard from the planning officers over here about the other developments in Edinburgh and places. I don't know Edinburgh too well. I've been, but I don't know Edinburgh. And I'm certain some of these things, if their exercise had been done properly, if they'd have consulted people, they may have the same problems. I'm saying around Rodney Road, there is problems, and there'll always be problems. There is problems at this moment in time with the park, with people lingering around there. And if you come there, it's not, I don't know when this place is going to close or what. You know, we've heard 7 to 7 and all them times and whatever the case may be. If you come back there late of an evening, I don't do it that often, but at the bottom of Stead Street, there again is another crowd of people there. Where they've been thrown out of the park, they're down there as such. Now, I'm concerned about the people who live there because I say I've lived in that area all my life. Now I'm concerned about the people coming here. There's robberies taking place all the time where people are snatching telephones and all that. And that's what I object to as such. And I believe I haven't heard anything from the officers there with regard to what I call security of the area. I've heard that they're going to have, excuse me, 2 more minutes or a minute, or even less than a minute.
Less than that, because you're bringing
if you want to ask some more questions of me, please do it.
Yeah. But if you could wind up now,
but as far as I'm concerned, we've heard about security officers in the building. That is not going to wash in that area at all, in any shape or form. Even the police, when they're called to the park for disturbances, they cannot control it. So where are we going with the numbers of people? That's my objection to it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Questions for Mr. Liddell? Councillor City.
Thank you very much for taking the time to come and speak about how you feel that this kind of change of views or change of slight kind of proposal will impact on local residents. I guess it will be useful to just clarify a couple of things. First of all, what are the key kind of objection? Is it the numbers or is it the type of people?
Sorry if I'm speaking. I wouldn't object to any type of people because there's no way. I'm married to a French woman. I go to France quite a lot. I know the areas of Paris and places like that. Although she never came from Paris, so I do know what people. I'm not objecting to anybody coming there. What I'm fearful of is that those people come there. They come there with goodwill to put their head down for how many nights or one night, whatever the case may be. But the area doesn't allow that to happen. I'm telling you, it doesn't allow it to happen as such because of the thing. And I think if you'd have had a few more statistics, probably from the police in that area, then you would.
Of course, you can look at the opening hours and consider the potential impact on residential amenity from a planning point of view, but licensing is separate.
I just ask a question about the hours. When you're presenting on the hours, you mentioned this is a town centre location, but it wasn't unusual to have hours as late as 3 a.m. in the morning there. Can you tell us of the existing venues in the area, what, are there other venues which are open at 3 a.m? And if not, what's the latest opening hours of the existing venues in the area?
Okay, so first of all, just to clarify, I don't mean it's not unusual for existing venues to open this late, but in a town centre, it wouldn't be unusual to have nighttime uses that operate till 3 a.m. So in terms of the opening hours for existing premises, that isn't data that I have. I'm not sure if you do have it, Richard.
I'm not aware of any open till 3 a.m. The only one would be the Printworks, which is a recently, it's an existing meanwhile use and then a recently consented permanent cultural use. And I think that was till 6 a.m. from the top of my head.
Very late.
Yeah. So there is a.
It doesn't operate now.
No, but I suppose the point that we make is that it did. And
there's a lot of complaints about it.
And then, Kath, that goes back to the point about the licensing regime. So obviously, in being considered in terms of the license, then one of the things that the licensing committee are considering are complaints, nuisance that have been caused, if there's been issues with the police. So whilst
Councillor Whitton, can we let officers speak, please?
So whilst the planning application is limiting by condition the hours, the venue operator, I'm sure the venue operator can address this question as well, would in any case need go through licensing process and make the case there. So they couldn't operate those hours without that license. And of course, the licensing committee can take into account those other considerations, which aren't necessarily planning considerations.
Thank you. I think hours of operation are likely to be something we return to before we make a decision, but maybe want to leave that to the applicants unless there's any further questions at this stage for officers on that issue. I wanted to pick up some other issues that were raised by the residents at Hoffield Place. So they mentioned the hours, but one of the things that does seem to be a particular concern for them is about people using that ramp from the car park area through Hoffield Place and their concerns about increased volumes. My understanding is that the plan is eventually to remove that ramp in any case, but just to understand the timings of this, whether that ramp would be closed to the public before this is open, or whether that's something we expect to happen subsequently.
So just to clarify that the closure or opening of that ramp is entirely separate to this application. So that forms part of the main outline planning permission for the site. It isn't connected to the application before us this evening. So the outline application leaves possibilities for that ramp to either be closed or remain open. It kind of acknowledged it as an issue at the time, and the Section 106 allows different scenarios to be considered. So what the Section 106 agreement doesn't do is define a time by which that route must be closed, because it will be dependent upon how the master plan comes forward, what other routes there are through the master plan at that point in time. Obviously, there are pluses and minuses to that route through Hoffield Place, depending on which residents you speak to. So it is very likely that that route will close when there are other parts of the master plan built out and other permeable ways for pedestrians. But I don't think, the applicants are here, they might be able to say more on it. I couldn't give a time frame this evening, but it is unconnected to this application. I appreciate that it is one of the concerns raised by the residents, but it isn't something we could tie up as part of this issue.
Okay, that's helpful. One other question I wanted to ask is, I understand what's happening in terms of management of people leaving the building, and therefore sort of not everybody pouring out the venue all at once and creating big noise and disturbance and the marshalling around that. Just also mindful that potentially creates slightly different welfare issues, and there's been talk about people sort of concerns and printworks of people urinating around the area and things like that. And obviously, the longer people have to queue to get out, the more likely that is to be an issue. So just to understand, is there anything in the plans about managing that?
I think it would be useful to hear from the operator around how they manage that as they're here. The management plan will require them to give us certain levels of comfort and commitment around that. As I understand it, there will never be people queuing to leave this venue. It isn't Printworks.
Okay.
There's a large dining offer where people will come and go sporadically throughout the evening. It's not going to hold the big events that Printworks held. However, it's probably best to actually speak to the operator in detail about their experience of how they'll manage that process, and then we will sign it off in due course when they submit their plan to us.
Thank you. And final question I had was paragraph 111. It talks about secure by design, and the sort of conclusion there is because this is a temporary use, it's not appropriate to have those measures in place. But just to understand a little bit more about that and the secure by design comments there.
That doesn't mean that the applicant team hasn't worked with the secure by design officers. It just means that because this is a meanwhile use, it's not appropriate to attach a planning condition that requires that formal certification process. However, the comments from secure by design were shared with the applicant team at the time when they came in, and it's my understanding that they have a working relationship with their proposals. So it's just that we will control it through the planning system.
Thank you. Any further questions from committee members? Yeah. Councillor Soames.
To understand what happens at the end of the 5-year period. It's going to get knocked down to...
Well, the planning permission will expire, so there will no longer be permission for that building to operate in that way. If the master plan has developed to a point where British Land want to build out their outline permission, then that's an option open to them. If they weren't quite ready and they wanted to apply to extend the use, that would be an option open to them. But the one known is that the permission that we issue would formally expire. So some action would have to be taken if they wanted to carry on past that date.
Thank you. We're going to move on. Are there any objectors to this application this evening? We've not had notification of any, and I can't see anybody in the room that is doing that, or indicating they want to, but just give people the opportunity. No, in that case, could the applicant or the applicant's agent? Thank you. And you'll have heard how we run these things, so I'm going to ask you each to introduce yourselves, and then after that, I will give you 3 minutes between you with which to address the committee.
Hello, I'm Hugh Savvy, consultant. Hi, I'm Simeon, Head of Strategy at Broadwick.
Hi, I'm Georgina Wellen from British Land.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. I am the British Land lead for the corner proposal at the vacant former range unit. At Canada Water, we are committed to delivering one of the largest and most sustainable mixed-use regeneration projects in London. The master plan will be delivered in stages, and as such, we are continuously exploring ways in which we can create enlivenment and attractiveness to the area. British Land, in partnership with Broadwick, are pleased to present this exciting proposal for a new food hall, vertical farm, and flexible event space. Phase 1 of the Canada Water Master Plan is nearing completion, and during this we have completed on 7 Roberts Close, which delivered 79 council homes, and was handed over to Southwark Council in 2024. We've delivered on the boardwalk and Southern Edge steps, which are now open and in use and showcasing the new wetlands habitat in Canada Dock. Plots A1 and A2, comprising of homes, workspace, and the new council-run leisure centre, are due to complete later this year. And we see Corner as an important piece of Phase 1, offering a cultural meanwhile use for the next 5 years until the shopping centre site is redeveloped as part of the master plan. This venue will create new employment opportunities during both the construction and operational phase. I will now hand over to Simeon, our partner at Rodney.
I'm Simeon. My job is to operate and programme venues, which we hope to do with Corner Corner. At Broadwick, we bring together music, culture, food and art in unique spaces. We operate over 30 venues around the world where we design, build and deliver some of the most exciting venues and entertainment brands, including the former Printworks. As a business, Canada Water has been home for us for nearly 10 years, with the opening of Printworks in 2017. During that 6-year operation, we also operate the old Decathlon store, the Dock Edge or Dock X, an event space with a capacity of 1,500 people. We're currently hosting Channel 4 and Taskmaster in this space. We have a proven track record and a long-standing relationship with Canada Water and a good reputation with the community, having given away 10,000 tickets to fans of Printworks in that time. At the centre of the space, Corner Corner, will be a vertical farm managed by our partners, Harvest London. The farm will showcase and celebrate the journey from farm to fork by growing herbs and salad leaves that will be used in the food hall. The multifunctional exhibition space will offer a potential for a variety of events and experiences, catering to all groups, including families. We have an exciting programme of events planned, starting with an immersive children's experience from Microsoft Minecraft. We'd be excited to be given the opportunity to present this amazing space.
To conclude, for all the reasons that Simeon and I have outlined, we respectively request that tonight the committee grants temporary planning permission. Thank you, Chair. And should you or the committee have any questions, we'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. Questions from members of the committee? I'm going to go to Councillor Whittam first.
Before I go to the hours, can you just point out on the plan, ground floor plan, where the toilets are?
I need to do that.
Yeah. If you can describe.
Yes, it's quite hard from sitting here, but see the pink area?
Yeah.
Just above that where it gets a bit complicated.
Yeah.
Do you want to point?
Oh yeah. Let me come up. Yeah. So essentially there's a big toilet block here. That's super easily accessible from the main entrance off the water side, very clearly signposted inside the venue. And also there's an entrance from the event space with its own toilets. These will be publicly accessible. You don't have to come and buy food. You don't have to buy drinks to use these toilets. They're available to the public when we're open.
Okay. Coming on to when you're open.
Yes.
Are you doing it 3 in the morning?
Look, we across our 30 venues around the world, we have various different trading hours, all the way through to 6 a.m. in some of our locations. And I guess for us, councillor, the 3 a.m. is just giving us flexibility in the future of this planning application. As you know, licensing is a different regime and is much shorter, more flexible, more kind of dynamic in process. We essentially we have a licensing application hearing next week on the 13th. That is less hours, as some of you may know. The 3 a.m. just gives us flexibility in the future for the odd event that might come up that we will apply for. As you rightfully said earlier on, we may apply for an extension in the license for those specific users. But against a management plan, as the EHO mentioned earlier on, with a dynamic sound plan. That we believe we can cope with. We did many shows at Printworks till 4 a.m. We did 600 shows, in fact, and we're really proud of our reputation with the local community in Canada Water. Yeah, there may have been the odd complaint from the community, but we believe that we dealt with those. Across those 600 shows, we had no interactions with licensing, no formal complaints.
I've sat in quite a few meetings at the time at Printworks. Talking about toilets along the edge of the dock and people urinating into garages.
Do I need to speak to that?
Yes, please. Yeah, that's an important point.
Councillor, they're good points. There were moments where we had people with antisocial behaviour early on with Printworks. We took that feedback on. We created areas, pods, where we had public amenities that we put in on show days. We believe that we get on top of that, and I think the licensing officers would agree with on top of that. I think what this does for us is an opportunity is the permanent toilets. It's a good provision. In fact, we're relieved, literally. We have the architecture there, and I think that it's going to be a good because there aren't public toilets there anywhere really. And the library, if you speak to the library, we've been there for 10 years. We know the community. You can't go to the bathroom in the tube station. It's really difficult. Everyone trying to use the disabled toilet in the library. So the fact that we have these 20-30 loos there, I think it's a bigger thing than just what we're doing. I think people are going to use the space.
Thank you. I wanted to ask you a question about Hoffield Place, given that's come up, and given that we've heard clearly from officers that we can't be linking the closure of the ramp, it appears, to this, just to understand what the marshalling arrangements are for people leaving the venue.
I'll give a slightly more quicker update on Hoffield Place itself. So we have consulted with residents of Hoffield Place, and I think that's part of the market. I think the decision has been taken by the residents to close that. We agreed we would close that when we bring forward Zone B, which is the zone by the ramp by the leisure centre. The only other thing I'd add is there is a route in between the two new buildings, the Council's Leisure Centre and the Tower, which will be opening. I can't confirm a date, but it will be not dissimilar to when we open Corner, hopefully subject to planning in the summer of this year. The only last point is, Sim will cover the marshalling, but we would expect the large majority of people visiting Corner will either use Surrey Quay Station or Canada Water Station. And the access through Hoffield Place goes to Lower Road to Southern Park. It's not a principal route for people arriving or leaving the site in terms of marshalling our activities.
Yeah, I mean, we have it as one of the addendums to the application. We have a detailed stewarding dynamic plan. I guess I don't expect people to use that route, if I'm honest. But I guess, really honestly, if we did find that people were using that route really regularly, we would, like we did with Printworks, we would address it, we would secure it, we would steward it. Our belief is, like Printworks, people will leave and go to Canada Water Tube. It's excellent. We spoke to the transport team in there. We had a great relationship over the last 10 years with the team in the tube, and that's what we believe. And on top of that, all of the street cleaning and all of those things you'd expect us to do from corner back to the tube. That's what we believe. But that's dynamic, right? And I'm hoping in licensing as well, that'll be conditioned and we'll be required to steward in that way.
Questions from committee members? Okay, thank you. You may return. We may find we have questions for you later on, so please do stay near the front in case those arise. Thank you. Any supporters of the application that live within the 100 metres site? I can't see any. Any board councillors wish to speak who aren't a member of the committee? No. In that case, any further questions for officers that come out as the presentations we need to ask? In that case, any views on the application or what we want to do with it, and particularly, I think, that issue about hours. And Councillor Whittam, I am going to look at you as somebody who's interested.
Yeah, I'm still not happy about 3 a.m. And I think you could have done it with 10s on top of the licensing hours that we're trying for the odd occasion that you want to go later than 1 a.m. 2 a.m. Town centre licensing, quite generous as it is, without having to extend it really quick. But apart from that, I think it's a good scheme. It makes use of an empty space, gives people things to do all through the day. Lots of variety there, something for everyone. And the toilets are a good thing.
Thank you. I could see officers itching when we were talking about hours. Any comments?
Well, just attends as a temporary event notice under licensing. So if you got a 10, that means you'd be able to carry out a licensable activity under licensing for longer, but you would still have to comply with any condition on the planning permission. So I think potentially what the applicant was saying is the licensing hours might be shorter, and then we might use 10s. I don't know off the top of my head. I think it's 50 a year, around that, to extend that. But they would still have to comply with any condition on the planning permission. So that's why they want that flexibility.
Yeah.
Okay, any further comments or questions on this? Otherwise, Councillor Whitting, you've given us your views. Any other views from members of the committee?
No, I mean, no, Chair, I'm quite happy because as Councillor Whittam is the ward councillor and understands and knows the area really well. I'm happy to sort of support any recommendation if it deviates from what has been proposed. But to us, I'm quite happy to support that, given that understanding her representation. But apart from that, I echo her comments. It is a good scheme and potentially, and be interested in. And it's quite varied, isn't it? Which it's a sort of monthly use, which I'm in favour of, and of all ages, particularly a range of age groups. So yeah, I'm happy to vote in favour.
I agree with the comments made so far, and I'm happy to support.
Okay, Councillor Whittam.
Yeah, just one thing. The music offer apparently is going to be jazz mainly, which I would vote against.
It takes all sorts. It's not my cup of tea either, but there's definitely a market for it. There'll definitely be people who enjoy it. So yeah, if we only voted for the music we like, we'd be not having much going on in the borough. Okay, I think with that, I'd like to move that we adopt officers' recommendations set out in paragraph 1 of the report on page 10 of the main agenda pack. The temporary planning permission is granted for 5 years, subject to recommended conditions and informatives. Does any member of the committee wish to second this proposal? Councillor Whittam, thank you. So Councillor Whittam, I'm going to turn to you first to vote.
Okay.
Councillor Soames. Councillor Sitchik. And Councillor Richard Livingstone. I'm also voting for it. Permission is granted. And that brings us to an end of this evening's meeting. Safe travels home, everybody. Take care.
Okay, stop reading.
Round. Yes, no, I see. Oh, it helps that they weren't good. Yeah, supporters or anything. I thought it was more like we get.
Oh, no, right?
But no, seeing various people falling over each other to come and support and then decide they weren't going to support. So yeah, we seem to have had